Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back into the video from Totally Not Mark, continuing with his Naruto reviews. Part 5, he has now started on the Shippuden part of Naruto, part 2. And, yeah, I've always said that part 1's the best. I still stick with that, but I do remember Shippuden opening pretty strong. It was interesting to see everyone back again after the time skip. I really liked... did this happen at this point? Sakura and Naruto doing the bell test against Kazekage again. I'm pretty sure that happened now, or was it after the... Anyway. The whole Gaara retrieval thing was cool. Meeting other members of the Akatsuki, and then establishing that they are a group, and there's other stuff going on, and they're going after all the tailed beasts and that. Really, really strong opening. So yeah, let's see what Mark had to say. Oh my god, and Sakura had her fight as well, like that, which, you know, moment where Sakura could have stood out from the rest, but then I feel like that's her highest point, really, in part 2 of the Naruto story. But let's see what Mark has to say, shall we, on the Kazekage rescue arc.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back from the time skip and about to dive headfirst.
It was cool to see them older.
Something I've noticed since starting this series is that, unlike any other series I've covered, fans seem divided, and that's putting it lightly. Since I finished the very first arc of this series, with every subsequent video, I keep getting comments saying something along the lines of, "It's all downhill from here," which, having now completed the first arc of Shippuden, I can't say I share that opinion. Yet, anyway.
Right, okay.
Some parts I might like more than
Sakura fight was sick. I thought it was class. Against the story. Data is sick.
Behind it of what needs or wants to be done. I'm not saying that it can't go downhill from here, but it hasn't happened for me yet, and it certainly didn't happen with this arc. And today I'm sharing my blind
She was sick as well, the old lady.
Kazekage rescue mission, and spoiler alert, I loved it.
What was that?
The further I've delved into this series, the more I found that it likes to utilize fights to tell its story.
Yeah.
I do like this approach, and I think it makes sense given the circumstances.
It's a shonen.
I do think that overall it does feel a lot more one-note in its approach compared to earlier arcs, which had opportunities for training and exams to filter the themes and narrative context for different characters. However, with that said, I also think that the conversations that occur during these fights serve as a nice balance to that issue and lack of variety.
My god, yeah, some of the stuff that comes out when people are like fighting is like, excuse me?
The reintroduction of all the main and secondary characters primarily concerns itself with the kidnapping of Gaara and the bringing full circle of his character arc. It's a powerful tale with themes of responsibility, regret, and loneliness. In terms of the new post-time skip,
it was nice to see who's made the Kazekage as well.
Characters have remained much the same. I do enjoy the reimagined designs of Naruto and Sakura. There's an obvious air of maturity to these respective looks.
They did. Masashi Kishimoto did a very good job making them older, like, yeah.
Removing some of the fiery orange with a much more muted, darker tone.
Yeah.
The same goes for Sakura. I love that she's decided to keep her hair short, which speaks to her mindset greatly thanks to the fight she had with Ino during the Shippuden exams. Furthermore, her outfit, similar to her more mature persona, reflects a more practical action-based
yeah, like, you haven't got the flappy bits.
Stripping away her dress-like garments, replacing them with something far more fitting.
It's more practical for a ninja, yeah. Hey, Sakura looks sick with that pose.
Later in this video with her outstanding fight. But as far as
mate, it is outstanding, isn't it?
I'm honestly thrilled that Sakura has been training under Lady Tsunade, managing in her own way to find an identity in a critically important vertical, the likes of which Naruto and Sasuke aren't good at. It plays to the natural strengths she demonstrates as a character in the first part and builds upon them naturally, giving me a sense that she is, in fact, her own character.
For now. So is this them? Yeah, so the bell test. Yeah.
As a concept, I really love time skips in stories. They can't really be used all too often, and when used correctly, can offer a lot of anticipation and fun for the audience reading or watching. A great example of this is, once again, One Piece, where before the time skip,
what's with the Jinsara stuff?
A clear set goal to aim for in the time they had to train, and once they return after the time skip, we anticipate the reveal of how each person did.
I love the time skip in One Piece.
On the other hand, took a different approach by effectively ending on a high note at the end of the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. And when they picked back up in the Saiyan arc, they communicated the passage of time visually through either the action between Goku and Raditz, or through Goku now having a young
a child having that, it's like, definitely shows he's more mature.
Those approaches to the time skip are unique, and I'm
They got the
certainly not
rules.
suggesting that Kishimoto looked to mirror his approach after any one of these. I mean, this arc of Naruto was written in 2006, well before the time skip of One Piece. I'm just using these as examples of how one might approach this narrative mechanic and make it work for them. Interestingly, though, the Naruto series seems to have taken an approach similar to, but not exactly the same as either of them.
Yeah.
Similar to One Piece in that Naruto's final arc before the time skip ends in a tragic
Very
manner,
tragic,
and
Jesus
spurred on from the
Christ.
results of that, our heroes now have a clear-cut goal.
Yeah, because it's not just Naruto that needs it, it's Sakura as well, isn't it? Because, like, come on.
We see the passage of time with certain characters more accurately through the revelation of their new circumstances. While we can see the developments and improvements of Naruto and Sakura
Kakashi's so cool.
clarity during their introduction training sessions with Kakashi, we also see the new position Gaara finds himself
Which was
in
cool.
now that the dust is settled. And as it happens, this arc concerns itself with his story greatly.
The Akatsuki, man, here we go. Or the Akatsuki that I used to call them.
Finally, after all this time, the Akatsuki are making their presence.
Oh god, he called them that.
In this
It's
arc,
the
they are
Akatsuki.
pretty damn awesome.
I love it.
Itachi specifically, like,
Comment section's gonna be crazy.
creepy as it was, but I'll touch on that a little later.
Sorry.
As it happens, these
Sorry.
Akatsuki folks are after individuals known as Jinchuri.
Oh my
These are
god,
humans
this is
like
brilliant.
Gaara and Naruto that within them possess a spirit of one of the nine-tailed beasts.
He's called them what I used to call. I bet you the next one's gonna be like. So people were telling me not to call him the Akatsuki.
By way of Gaara to the story. We catch up with him in the sand village he was raised in,
And he's wearing the garb and everything's class.
Don't stop there, however, and we see just how much he's changed when a character from the Akatsuki arrives and starts to slaughter the people of his village. There are flashbacks detailing in explicit terms how Gaara's mindset has changed over the last number
Which is
of years.
sick. Like, it's nice to see the
Dedicating
growth.
himself to his people. He wants to build a connection with his village, gain their respect, and to become something precious to them. He wants to be a person people can look up to, someone who can lead and look after his community. It's a beautiful 180 he's taken since we last saw him during the Chunin exams, with my favorite demonstrations of his character coming in the form of his defense of his own village, using all of his chakra.
Is there a weird version of the Sandstorm playing in the background of this?
And I don't know what it is, but every single time Gaara tangles with anyone, it's always a spectacle. Something
Yeah, it always looked dead good, didn't it, with the sand and everything.
Juicy narrative growth in the process. The fight that takes place, while not being much
so
to
cool.
look at in the anime, in the manga, the page spreads are truly breathtaking. The scale is
Look
evident
at
only
that.
serves to reinforce the extreme.
I always say that, like, some of the
Gaara
panels look so much
uses
better in the
towards
manga.
In the name of protecting others now. Despite the fight ending in defeat,
Like, even
young
like when
Kazekage,
Pain destroys
it's
Konoha,
clear
I
that
do
Gaara is on the path to
personally feel it looks better in the manga.
Helped obviously by the young Uzumaki Naruto's actions and philosophy. However, now kidnapped and in transit to the stronghold of the Akatsuki for purposes we have yet to fully understand, the word reaches Naruto and his allies. Something needs to be done, and this, my friends, is where our story really kicks off.
There we go.
But before I jump into Naruto and the gang's effort to catch up with and save Gaara, I have one small nitpick that I just have to get out in the open.
Okay.
There have been very few things in Naruto the series that have bothered me, and
Right.
honestly, fewer than is standard for a story I review on a long-term basis. However, now I think is the time to talk about a particularly bad piece of writing that's all over this manga.
Okay.
It's minor, but it would be disingenuous for me not to mention it amongst
What?
all the praise
Interested.
I've given this
Interested.
series. My pet peeve with this series is when a character says, and I quote, "that jutsu." You know when these characters that are best friends tell us
Just don't use that
"Hey,
thing.
man, we've been friends since we were kids," etc., etc. People don't really speak to each other like that in the real world.
Yeah,
and it just sucks me out of the experience
Right,
when
okay,
I hear
I get what
it
you're
or
saying,
see it in writing. And in a sense, that's what that jutsu does for me when a character says it to another.
Yeah.
You can't be talking about that jutsu. Like, they may as well be winking at the camera.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, I totally understand the utility of such a sentence. Kishimoto wants to tell us that whomever's speaking has an ace up their sleeve, but he doesn't want
Wants
to
to
tell
know
us
what
that
it is. Yeah.
I get it. It's a builder of anticipation, in a sense. But there has to be a better way than this. And to be honest, it wouldn't have bothered me if it had only been once or twice in the series, but it happens countless times.
Yeah, okay.
Alright, so back to the story. Once
That-
word reaches
fair,
Naruto back
fair
in the
enough,
village,
fair.
Tsunade sends
Yeah, it's a
himself,
nitpick, but
Sakura,
it's fair.
and Kakashi to check it out. Their mission is to suss out the situation in the Sand Village and report back immediately before there's any trouble. One thing I will say, though, is that once they do arrive, Sakura demonstrates how impressive she is with her abilities to heal.
Yeah, man, she's doing
And
good.
to the point,
She's
there's
doing
now such
good.
a pronounced contrast with her, particularly when
Just
you
wish they
compare
could
her
have
with
kept
the
on
comparatively much
with the
less
growth.
confident child she was was when the series began. And this isn't by any means all she's improved since these days, but we'll get to that soon. Furthermore, before we go into the final act of the story, I do want to say that I really enjoyed the wildcards that were injected into the mix right before the second half of this arc. Out of nowhere, Guy's team with everyone's favorite little splendid ninja Rock Lee is roped into this mission. Kakashi and his team decide to try
we only end up
Gaara
fighting
from
the
those
copies
that
of
stole away,
Itachi and
Naruto
Kasami,
is
don't they?
very passionate about pursuing,
Who are
and
still
that
pretty
pursuit
damn strong considering they're just copies. Because they use
Itachi
real
is
life people, don't
fucking
they?
terrifying.
Isn't he just?
I think what I like most about this section, which doesn't just depict Itachi's fight with Kakashi's group, but also Guy's team with Itachi's ally Kisame,
Yeah, man.
isn't simply just how imposing the enemies are presented, but how capable the leaders of each group are, Kakashi and Guy. There's some great
They're definitely good at like protecting them, but getting them to do the job as well.
the situation, revealing Itachi's strategy, his weaknesses with his eyesight, and threatening him by saying that he, Kakashi, doesn't make the same mistakes twice. Almost putting himself on the same level as Itachi and reminding us all, too, that he was a prodigy when he was
Yeah, they both were,
I really
yeah.
think despite the two fights happening side by side with different people, Guy and Kakashi, they share a ton
And
of
the Guy Kasami
Both
thing is
leaders
sick, so that carries on, doesn't it?
compromises to their abilities, leaving much of the heavy lifting to Guy and Kakashi respectively. Guy ends up implementing a technique very similar to that which Lee used against Gaara, and in the manga
It's the
the
same. Yeah, it's the
scenes
same.
feel
At least he
truly
knows, yeah.
massive. The scope of the battle feels enormous, which, interestingly, is the exact opposite of Kakashi's fight with Itachi, and this is by design. It felt painfully intimate.
Yeah.
Everything from Itachi's first appearance to his constant state of always feeling comfortable in every situation.
Yeah, he's just not phased. He's just like whatever.
Added so much to the scene. With Itachi popping up out of the shadows, the reassurance Kakashi gave me as a reader felt much needed. But good God, did I not anticipate what he
The
would put
Genjutsu stuff,
Naruto through. Acting as some sort of sadistic spirit of Christmas past, confronting him with
That's such a good description, I love it.
insecurities, regrets, and fears. It's a masterful touch, further separating Itachi as a villain or foe, unlike any we've seen before in this story. Climaxing in a sequence where Kakashi holds Itachi off long enough for Sakura to bring Naruto back to reality, where he lands a devastatingly impressive attack in his feral spirit state. And it's the combination of this in tandem with his shadow clone technique that made this hype as all hell. And that's when Itachi and Kasame reveal that these were fakes the entire time.
Yep.
And that their
Not
real
even them.
selves aren't anywhere close by, appearing before them like this simply because they wish to stall them. Frustrating as it was for sure, it was also a brilliant scene and one that
Very
really
good.
freaked me out
Very
while I
good.
was reading it. Alright, so the situation
So
is
they
Big Door
so
has
much
a
stronger
lock,
than that.
Gaara is on the other side being killed, and because of that door and the seal that's on it, they have to split up into a bunch of different fights. Some are great, and others we straight up just do not see. So let's kick things off with one of the battles that we do see, the battle inside the cave, featuring Granny Chio and Sakura versus Sasori.
Such a good fight. Such a good fight.
Chio against Sasori was actually way better than I was anticipating.
Oh yeah, as soon as I seen Sakura, I was just like, oh, it's gonna be lame, but it's like, it's sick. It's sick.
Less interesting, due in part to her being used predominantly for comedy and, well, to swoon over Sasuke.
Yeah.
Which again, that's totally normal for a young girl in a story to do, but when all of the other characters had deeply philosophical and moral dilemmas at the core of their respective characters that they themselves deal with in every fight, it really felt like when different battles took place, Sakura was left out to dry.
Yep.
But in this arc, Kishimoto seems to have given her something much more to work with, or at the very least built something significant off of the strong foundations laid during certain sections.
Mate,
of
she was
prior
so cool in this.
Characters like Kakashi, Rock Lee, Gaara, Hinata, Neji, Naruto, and even Sasuke all derive their issues from their upbringings. However, compared to these characters, Sakura's upbringing was comparatively painless and, well, normal. I mean, in the first arc, when she was introducing and presenting herself in the first arc, she defined herself by what, at the time, was most important to her, Sasuke. But, fast forward to right now, after the time skip, she can now derive ambition and motivation not from her childhood, but from the events that took place over the course of the series' first half. Stuff that we, the readers, can relate to. She's now full of regret after she failed to keep Sasuke from
like she didn't even try and stop him. It's like, Jesus.
She was too weak to help bring him
up.
And now, years later, she's trained to become significantly
so that she can bring him back. Yeah, she's actually done something about it.
Specifically protect and heal her friends. And in this scene, she fights tooth and nail against Sasori just so that she can live up to her own ideals
Mate, and she does such a good freaking job. Oh my
critical
god.
in the past to her, but I also give credit where it's due. And that right there, that's a tremendous improvement on all fronts. At numerous points in this fight, Sakura is told to stand down, to let the old lady handle this fight.
And she don't.
Time and time again, she picks herself off the ground and shows everyone, including us, the readers, that she isn't the same scared little girl she once was.
Good.
And really, while she started the story as this girl I was sort of only lukewarm on, this fight alongside Granny Chio acts as, at least for me, her coronation as a fully realized character with
Yes,
wonderful
and they should have
clearly on display. Struggling with her own internal psychological questions, unique to her, by the way, and a master that sees something inside her student that no one else seems to see. Where Sasuke has his clan's genetics or heritage, and Naruto has the fox spirit, it's easy to forget that Sakura doesn't have these same advantages.
No, she does not. She's got a hell of a lot more to work with. Work for.
Is a feat worth standing back and showing praise for.
Mate, she does so well.
The fact that her opponent Sasori and her partner Chio, and you have for yourself a narrative cocktail primed for some effective emotional imagery,
Hell,
and
yes.
a challenge large enough to allow Sakura to amaze us all with her new abilities. As Chio is faced with aggression against her own lost grandson, having totally lost his way, by the way, starved of the love that he cherished and so needed,
His flashbacks were
uses his
nice.
powers of puppetry to wield the parents he lost as a child. It's unsettling and it's tragic, particularly when you take into account the fashion with which Chio and Sakura see to his demise using the puppets of his
Yeah, and it's
parents,
kind of like he
assuming
welcomes
the
it
same
as well.
positions around him as they symbolically welcome him to the afterlife, stabbing him collectively in the same pose they were seen hugging him once before. This event also concerned itself with Chio considerably. I found her character quite abrasive and, well, unlikable when we were introduced to her.
We're meant to, though.
She too has undergone a considerable change, one that is linked in many ways to Gaara and his standing in his community. And
Oh,
speaking of
mates.
Gaara, time to finally check in with the character leading the charge for his rescue, Naruto. The more this series explores Naruto as a character, the more interesting he becomes to me. Since the beginning of this series, we haven't really had much chance to see Kakashi show Naruto much attention, but that changes in this arc, and with that change, something came into focus for me. A theme I don't often see explored in as much depth and honest a fashion is that of responsibility within shonen stories. Now, I know what you're going to say. That's sort of the crux of like 90% of
Oh, you got the
various
Fortnite
characters.
stuff.
And to that I say, I appreciate and understand
Very
that,
recent.
but within those stories, oftentimes, if the
Like,
outcome of
literally
a rash decision
days.
made by the character results in confrontation or aggression, normally stories will lean more in the camp of determination and tenacity to save the day for that character, which sort of flies in the face of the theme of responsibility, I think, in a sense. Naruto desperately wants to save Sasuke.
Yeah.
He desperately wants to save Gaara. It's as clear as day on his face. His frustration and anger is bubbling to the surface as he brandishes his fox spirit's powers more and more. He promised Sakura, he promised everyone, and he promised
gonna bring
himself
Sasuke
that
back.
he'd bring back Gaara home.
Oh,
yet,
Gaara,
at
yeah,
numerous
of course.
points in this arc, he loses his temper and finds himself
Merely
compromising
the
his team's
cloak
effort
comes out,
for their
man.
well-being, forcing us to contend with the notion that if Naruto truly would do anything to bring them back, then he would also deny himself this indulgence into violence and revenge that he so clearly, desperately is pushing for. All in the name of creating the best possible chance to save Gaara in this instance. Perhaps more times in this arc than we have seen in any arc prior, Naruto has assumed his feral state. Eyes and claws poised for an animalistic attack to try and force his way to Gaara. Perhaps with his
Mate,
failings,
yeah,
he
it's
knows
too
that
much
Sasuke
at times. It's
will
like,
win
what are
this
you
fight
doing,
also.
mate?
But the
Calm
point is that
down.
his intentions are good, but he must know that that's not the best way, and yet he indulges in it regardless. This is why I love Kakashi, because in this chase he grounds the young ninja, reaffirming to him that they are indeed on the same team, and that if he wants Gaara back, they just need to be smart about how they approach
Yeah,
this
they need to
altercation
work on
with
it,
Deidara.
not just go
You know, what's
freaking
interesting about
all
this
in.
particular mechanic with Naruto is that
You'll
as
lose
it
your head.
happens, the more he loses himself to the spirit, the more this behavior invokes its power, and the more of a risk he runs in not only never achieving his goal, but he might lose himself completely also. Thanks to his friendships with the likes of Jiraiya and Kakashi, he's managed to avoid this, but I just find it interesting that this power which he draws from, if drawn from too much, will run counter to what his ultimate goals are. And nothing drives that home more than this. There's a simple but fantastic series of panels in this manga where Gaara finds himself all alone,
Yeah.
fading away with no one to help him.
But Naruto was the
Simply
same.
Naruto someone who's found himself in that same situation thinks of the times when he was at his
But then
lowest.
all the
Eventually,
people
he
start
slowly but
appearing in
surely
that,
built
yeah.
a community
Yeah,
around him
and
that cared
Gaara's
about
done
him.
the same.
It's been described in the story, and particularly in this arc, that Naruto's power is to build connections with everyone he speaks with. And this is
The talk now
reflected in his
jutsu.
panels.
The friend
As time went
jutsu.
on, he was able to build around him a wonderful community of friends and loved ones. But Gaara didn't have those same advantages.
No, but he does now.
Chio starts to
He's got it now.
murmurings along the lines of "this is how it is for Kazekage." Naruto snaps. No one understands Gaara like Naruto does, and even Naruto can't imagine what his circumstances must have been like. Interestingly, there's something of a contradiction at play here where much of the drama seems to be stemming from, in a very natural and great way, mind you, in how Naruto feels in relation to Gaara versus how the rest of the world seems to treat ninjas, and certainly Jinchuriki. They are disposable, and yet in this outburst, with the death of Gaara, despite wanting to be Hokage, one of the highest positions in this structure, he seems beside himself, totally and utterly distraught at the notion that no one ever considered how he might have felt, how Gaara might have felt, how his life might have gone different had he not been forced to connect with this spirit in the first place. In other words, Naruto's here to shake things up. He wants to become Hokage, and maybe he'll change this crazy world along the way. This show of emotion and frankly common sense resonates with the old-timer, and in a last-ditch effort to do what she believes is the right thing to do, she sacrifices herself to bring Gaara back from the brink, and the depiction of which is beautiful.
Yeah, it's
Surrounded by
very
those
nice.
he longed for connection with, Gaara now has a family who loves him. Man, okay, look, it's a great story. Shippuden is off to a great start, and
Yeah.
the next stop will be Itachi or Sasuke or something along those lines. But for now, thanks for stopping by and checking out this review. I'll be covering the next arc next week, and after that we have Spidey-Sember. If you don't want to miss any of these reviews, I encourage you to subscribe for more. I've recently realized that less than half of you who watch my channel are subscribed, so what's up with that? Just hit the button. It'll take like a second, it'll be no effort, and it'll make me
I'm
super
subscribed.
happy. But that'll do it for this week. Love you guys, and thank you so much for watching.
So what's the next part of? Oh, he usually puts a little thing at the end, doesn't he? It's like a little hint the way it's edited in. Let's see what pops up. Might be a little thing. Come on, show us something. Remind me. What happens next soon? Ah! That's brilliant. So obviously class don't know what happens, so there's some but I love how he was calling him the Akatsuki. It's like, I hope next week he does say like, so people were telling me that I was pronouncing it wrong, because I got that for ages, and it's the Akatsuki, and it's like, yeah. That really made me go, sorry, that was funny. But that was a good review, and yes, I feel like Shippuden opened strong, man. Really opened strong. And yeah, Sakura got a moment. And I think, does Sai get introduced next? I think, pretty sure Sai gets introduced next. And yeah, I can't remember what happens next. Let me look at the volumes dead quick. Where are we? Oh no, they never show you on the... I don't think what it's got to do with. But anyway, we'll see you next week. Thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of a video up below, the link's in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all that helps support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, guys, for that. And thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know how to watch this. Good blah blah blah. Watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys. So you guys next time.